It is my great privilege to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, the Honorable Wanda Thomas Bernard, Canadian Senator, social work educator, human rights and social change advocate, and social worker. A proud Nova Scotian, Senator Bernard was born in Halifax. She completed her BA at Mount St. Vincent University, MSW at Dalhousie, and PhD at the University of Sheffield, England. She joined Dalhousie School of Social Work in 1990 and was appointed director in 2001. Senator Bernard was the first Black Canadian to become a tenured full professor at Dalhousie University, and in 2017 was the first woman from the School of Social Work and the first African Canadian to be appointed Professor Emerita. She is a founding member of the Association of Black Social Workers and has served as an expert witness in human rights cases. On October 27, 2016, Dr. Bernard was named to the Senate of Canada by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to sit as an independent. She is the first African Nova Scotian woman to serve in the Senate chamber. Senator Bernard's academic and professional contributions are significant. Through her scholarly work, community development, service development, and mentoring, Senator Bernard has focused on how experiences of racism, combined with other social and economic factors, affect the health and well-being of African Canadians. Her work provides an Afrocentric understanding of the strengths of Black families, including Black men's experiences of mothering, and community issues such as violence, gender, and health. She has provided leadership in developing culturally relevant services and programs in the health professions, and she has championed equity, diversity, human rights, and empowerment, and is a persistent advocate for change. Senator Bernard's 2016 maiden speech in Canada's Senate celebrated two important milestones in Nova Scotia: the 50th anniversary of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission and the 75th anniversary of the Dalhousie School of Social Work. She noted that with the signing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations in 1948, changes were initiated in gender rights and racial segregation, which laid the foundation for the civil rights and women's movements in Nova Scotia. The government of Nova Scotia established its Human Rights Commission in 1967 with the explicit purpose to challenge long-standing patterns of discrimination on racial, religious, and ethnic grounds. I cannot tell you how thrilled I was to read this and to see that with this speech, Senator Bernard highlighted human rights and social work, the very foundations of our profession. I would also like to add a personal note. I've had the privilege of working with Wanda, I think since the very late 1980s, through the Canadian Association for Social Work Education. We met at conferences, we sat at the deans and directors table, we worked on the board of, now the Commission of Accreditation. And during that time, we got to know each other a little bit, and Wanda opened my eyes to the long and the significant history of Black Canadians in Nova Scotia, the struggles and achievements, the shameful racism, and the fact that it was not until 1983 that the very last segregated school in Nova Scotia was closed. When Senator Bernard was recognized in 2016 by the accomplished Black Canadian women, she was asked, "Why do you do what you do?" She replied, "I stand on the shoulders of many great women and men that went before me, and made it possible for me to be who and where I am today. I have faced adversity in my life, have survived through the support, advice, love, and grace of others. I must give back in thanks to those who have given so much to me. I try to lift as I climb every day, and I try to lead the change I want to see in the world." Welcome, Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard.
Alan Sue, that was such an amazing introduction. I'd like to know that person. I'm always amazed at what people will say when they're introducing me. And sometimes, to be honest, I'm always a little worried. But Alan Sue, that was really quite amazing. And I'm really, truly amazed at the amount of research you did to you found things that I had even forgotten about. So thank you, President Donahue, social workers, social work educators. It is, what a wonderful audience you are. First of all, let me say that. As I look at the audience, I'm really, really impressed. The number of you who've come out to talk about, learn about, share information, share research and ideas about mental health across the lifespan. When I think about social work on the front line, I'm honored that you've chosen me to be your keynote speaker for this conference, so I thank you for that. And I hope that I do the topic justice. I was about to say I didn't get an instruction on how to use this thing, but it's easy, that's good. So I want to focus on 5 key things in the keynote today. I want to talk a bit about social justice and mental health, really bringing those together. Talk about an intersectional feminist perspective and how I see that working. I want to share with you the race equity lens that I try to bring to all of my work. And I'll talk a bit about my own journey through social work, being on the front line, being a social work educator, being what I call a community engaged scholar, and now as a senator. And believe me, I bring that social work lens to all of that work. As I reflect on my own journey, that's me on the chair at 18 months with my 3-year-old sister. And that's in our yard. My journey is a journey that was very steeped in a life of systemic poverty, systemic racism, systemic sexism, a cycle of unequal access, a life that was scripted for me long before I was even born. And somehow, as you look at the next picture, that's me sitting in the Senate. I think I might be actually wearing the same blazer. didn't plan that well, did I? So just so you know, it is me. And obviously I like this blazer. Somehow, I flipped the script. Somehow, that 18-month-old who was playing with her big sister, with rocks and dirt and flies, and we were having fun. We were having fun. But somehow, that little girl became a social worker, became a social work advocate, became a social work educator, and landed, I think, one of the most awesome jobs in the country, with the most incredible responsibility to speak about all of these issues every single day. That's what I get to do every single day. Is to think about injustice and what we do about it. To think about poverty and how we eradicate it. To think about racism and how we change it. To think about mental health and what we can do about it. Those are the things that I do. As a social justice advocate, as a mental health advocate, as a senator, I am an instrument in the fight to enact social justice in the mental health field and in all of these fields. I would dare say that even at 18 months old, I was learning to be creative. If you can make a way out of no way, you learn to be creative. And I stand on the shoulders of generations of people who had to be creative to survive conditions that were meant to destroy us. If creativity doesn't give you a pathway out of that, nothing really will. So you'll hear me weaving. I don't have time to go into the whole personal journey here. But I want to talk a bit about the professional journey. And with a particular emphasis on the work that I've done in mental health and mental wellness and issues of equity. And they've been clearly embedded throughout my life journey. And as I was preparing for this talk, it was challenging to sort of tease out, because the work around mental health was so much a part of every aspect of my work over these past 45 years, I think now. I really did start as a baby. Let me go back to that picture, yes. I was doing social work even then, I think. But when you look at this poster, what do you see? What do you see? I love this poster. I love the way it helps us visually get the difference between equality and equity. And for so many years, we've had folks emphasizing equality and not emphasizing equity. And we really want to make the shift to equity. So think about it on the front lines. Think about the need to be creative when we're working with clients. What do they need to succeed? But also, and more importantly perhaps, what does success mean to them? Success means different things to different people at different times of our lives. Think about the conference theme, mental health across the lifespan. My 18-month-old self would think very differently about mental health than my 18-year-old self, then my 48-year-old self, then my 58-year-old self, then my 88-year-old self when I get there. I imagine I will think differently. We all think differently across the lifespan, don't we? But we also need to be creative then when it comes to solutions. So keeping in mind the idea that the notion of what success means really varies, and people's abilities in terms of addressing different realities in their lives also varies. So therefore, the way we enter someone's life, or the way we enter communities, the tools that we use, they need to vary as well. We cannot have the one-size-fits-all. The one-size-fits-all may give us equality. It will not, cannot, does not give us equity. So that means we become the instruments then. Someone had to create this change here to create equity, right? So we become the instruments. As social work professionals who are entering lives, entering communities, creating policies, we become the instruments. We need to think through, how will this impact? We must be creative to create equity in mental health across the lifespan. We must do that. We must keep intersectional feminism has to be at the forefront, must be at the forefront, not an afterthought. Oftentimes when people, and certainly the early days of feminism, all women were the same. That's not our reality. So we must be guided by this intersectional feminist lens in this work. Make the links. Creativity is needed to achieve that equity. So many people are caught at the intersection of oppression. And many people are impacted by multiple layers of oppression. And the more barriers you have to overcome, perhaps the more challenging it will be, but I believe the more creative you have to be. And those of us who are engaged in working with people to help them break through the barriers, we have to be more creative as well. So we could look at those barriers and think about how those barriers hold people back, how the barriers keep people down, how the barriers keep people from achieving their full value in life, how barriers keep us from accomplishing goals. But we can also think about those barriers as challenges to break through, as opportunities to do that fight for social justice. We can see the intersection of different oppressions that often lead to despair, but they can also give us hope. Amazing hope when people are able to break through the barriers that would otherwise hold them back. We can think about these intersections of oppression as strong links of marginalization, being kept on the margins. But we can also think about them as opportunities to break through, opportunities to create change. We have, and as social workers, we have the gift of being able to create change. We have power that we give up every single day. When I think about social workers on the front lines, and often, I don't know, but maybe Ontario's different, But I see this often in Nova Scotia, where people say, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. You don't think like that in Ontario, do you? You have to be creative. You can do your job, but you can do your job in a way that creates that equity in mental health. I also try to bring a race equity lens to this work, and I invite you to consider bringing this race equity lens in addition to that intersectional feminine lens in thinking about mental health across the lifespan. Racism are not listed anywhere. Well, they are listed in some places because we're pushing it on the agenda. But they're social determinants of health. And they're absolutely social determinants of mental health. They are social determinants of mental health, and we need to keep that in the front of our minds. Race and racism impact every aspect of people's lives when they're impacted by racism. And certainly in terms of our work in social work. In terms of education, what's taught, who's teaching, how it's taught. We know there's this school-to-prison pipeline. We see the over-incarceration of Indigenous people, of people of African descent, of people with mental health challenges who should not be treated in a hospital. They should be treated in mental health settings as opposed to in prisons. Health and mental health impacted by race and racism. Poverty, child welfare, the daily microaggressions that sometimes make life so difficult. I talked with a young man just this week who's facing incredible challenges. And I said, you asked this question, how are you doing? And his response was, some days it's hard to get up. Some days it's hard to get up. Other days it's impossible to go to sleep. This person is dealing with incredible racism, systemic racism. But somehow he gets up every day. He goes to work every day. He finds the courage to keep going. And part of that is because he's got people in his life that help him break through those barriers. Part of it is because he's standing on the shoulders of people that give him hope. My 9-year-old grandson recently told his 7-year-old brother that their nanny's job is to instill hope in people. Can you imagine that? I wish I had recorded it, because I was totally blown away by this conversation they were having about me. They weren't talking to me. They're talking about Nanny being a senator. Well, what does a senator do? And Damon says, well, Nanny's job is to instill hope. Frontline social work happens even in the Senate. Many of you in this room are frontline social work practitioners. But I believe you may define yourself that way. Many of you may define yourselves differently as educators, as administrators. But at the end of the day, though, I believe no matter where we're practicing from, we're all practicing on the front lines. Because whether you're in management or not, you're practicing social work. Whether you're in an office, And maybe all of your work is done on the computer, online. You're still on the front lines of social work, no matter what we're doing. I invite you to center yourself by asking, how has my experience shaped my perspectives? So the way your worldview, the way you view a problem is going to be shaped by your experiences. So what are your experiences that shape who you are and how you enter the work? Thinking about the people we work with, and whether it's sitting in a boardroom creating policy or doing work in a community-based agency, we all need to be thinking about the structural barriers. So what are those structural barriers? What are the structural barriers that my clients, or that the people who will be most directly impacted by these policies that we're developing? What are the structural barriers that impact their lives? We also need to ask those questions of the agencies that we're working in. So what are the structural issues in my agency that contribute to, that help sustain the barriers that the people we're working with are experiencing every single day? Like the person who says, some days it's hard to get out of bed, and some nights it's hard to go to sleep. That's the reality for so many people in our country. So I want to step back to my social work practice and some of the work that I've done. My first social work job was in mental health. I worked at the Nova Scotia Hospital, which is the largest mental health inpatient facility in Nova Scotia. I got a job there before I even graduated. I started there about a month before I graduated. And although I was operating from this, I had my MSW, the ink wasn't even dry on the parchment, really. Here I was, a social worker in mental health. Creativity entered immediately. Issues around social justice were top of mind in those early years. I remember one of the creative things that I did was to set up a group for people inpatients who were diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I remember people saying to me, "You're going to bring them all together in a group?" Yes, we're going to bring them together in a group. And we did, and it was amazing. And some of those people went on to become community-based advocates in the Schizophrenia Society. And I'd like to think that maybe the ideas for that started when they were sitting in a group, in a circle with myself and a psychologist who dared to challenge the institution to say, we're going to do this. When everyone was saying you shouldn't do it, we did it anyway. And we didn't get fired. I remember I went from adults in the mental health facility to working with children. And most of the children that we were seeing were not children with mental health difficulties. They were children with attention deficit disorder, children with brain injury, children with behavior management issues. Should we have been putting those children in a mental health facility? Or should we be working with the schools and the families and the communities who were rejecting these children? One of the creative things that I did as a part of that work was we had an empty unit. I said, we need to do intensive work with families. Why don't we bring families into that empty space? First reaction, we can't do that. But I pushed, and I pushed. And guess what? We set up that unit. Well, we didn't do it, the people who should be working with these families, they work Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. I created a program where we had invited families in. Instead of sending the children home on weekend passes, we invited the parents to come in on the weekends and to stay in, because they were traveling from all over the province. So the parents would come in and they would stay on the unit. And I worked on the weekends. Hard on my family, mind you, but they were okay. We were trying to do something creative, setting it up as a pilot project, trying to determine if this would have an impact. We worked in schools, we went into schools, and now those things now are integrated in children's mental health as everyday practices. But when I was doing them back in the 70s, they were innovative and creative. Tying in research. I remember working with parents and then linking them to community-based resources. Parents who are dealing with children who have attention deficit hyperactivity issues, they need to talk to other parents to learn best practices. So creating those kinds of supports. But I remember one of the most significant cases I remember was later in my career. I was doing some private practice, and I had referrals of at least 6 women from child welfare. All of the women were involved with drugs and had their children taken from them. And as I was talking with these individual women, I realized there's a lot more here than what we realized. So I pulled those women together as a group, and we actually did some research. We called it Black Women Winning Over Addictions. An amazing piece of work. And it's, as a frontline practitioner, I knew that spending an hour a week with these women individually wasn't going to bring about the change that needed to happen in their lives. But bringing them together collectively was truly, truly amazing. And then when I think about, so there are lots of examples. I don't have time to go into many of them, and there are lots of examples of people doing from frontline to advocacy to research. As a frontline practitioner, I knew there was only so much that I could do. But as a member of the Association of Black Social Workers, we were strong. We were 4 women strong. There were only 4 of us. In the early days, when we started that organization 39 years ago, there were 4 women. One day we were meeting in my office, and racism still is really, quite rampant. And I remember one day I was late for the meeting, and so my 3 colleagues were sitting in the waiting room. And when I came out, one of my white coworkers said to me, "So what are you 4 doing? Planning some sort of uprising?" That was the day that I knew that the 4 of us had an unbelievable power. Because 4 of us, 4 women, were seen as a threat. So we didn't have the language, but today we would call that a microaggression. I turned that microaggression into an action. So the 4 of us, we became the voice for Black people in Nova Scotia. We changed policy. I remember I would go to the community services department, I was the spokesperson because I had the most secure job. The others were all working in either term positions or whatever. And I had a secure job with government, a union. So I was the spokesperson. So I remember the conversations that I would have. And I'd say, you know, I'm not here as an individual. That's the starting point. I'm not here as an individual. I'm representing the entire Association of Black Social Workers. I never told anyone there were 4 of us. Talk about being creative, right? And people listened. They listened. So the association became very powerful and still is. In fact, we've been just invited in to do some work with Black social workers who are just so traumatized by all of the racism they're experiencing in their practice. They invited ABSW in to do some work, and the department has really listened, really moved. And so we started. Has something happened with the sound? Yes, okay. I thought so, but can you hear me? We'll keep going. But I'll raise it up a bit. So we continue, that organization continues to challenge systems, and we continue to have people pay attention to the Association of Black Social Workers. So that community voice, that bringing in the first voices, very, very important part of the work. So we can do that. We can do that level of engagement. As a social work educator, one of the things I was always challenging as an educator was it's about what we're teaching, but it's also about how we're doing the teaching. What kind of pedagogical practices are we using? Whose voices are centered? Whose voices are centered? As a social work educator, as a social work student, I didn't learn much about working with Black families and Black communities, and what I'd learned actually was very troubling. So I had to change all of that. Part of the work was changing that, becoming more creative in terms of what we do, centering voices differently. Also about creating different change in curricula. I remember, Ellen Sue, you may remember the multicultural project we had many, many moons ago. And part of the discussion was, well, should we have separate courses that deal with these issues, or should we be integrating? And I remember writing a paper and basically saying, it can't be an either or. It has to be a both and. We need to be integrating this content in all of our courses, but we also need the single focus courses as well. And I feel the same way about mental health. Mental health should really be taught in all of our courses. I know at Dalhousie, we have an elective in mental health. That can't be the only place where we're teaching about mental health and social work. We need to be integrating mental health in our work around in research, in teaching policy, in teaching direct practice, all of those pieces. That intersectionality needs to be fully integrated in our teaching, in our field practice. What we do in the field becomes so important with this as well. Issues around mental health shouldn't just be in placements dealing with mental health. When you're working in child welfare, you need to know about mental health. When you're working with, in policing services, you need to know about mental health. When you're working in income assistance, you need to know about mental health. Often social workers are the first responders in terms of dealing with mental health issues. So if we don't ever learn anything about how to integrate that into our work, then we miss important opportunities to help people break through. As a community engaged scholar, A few years back, I was invited by the president of Dalhousie to speak at a dinner to talk about how you bring community into research, because funding bodies were requiring it now. So those of you who are working in education, you know about the funding bodies and the expectations. And a few years back, they made this shift to say, you know, we want people doing research to have stronger links with communities. Surprise, surprise, I was always doing that. I was always doing that. I didn't see it as something special that we had to do. It was something that I knew I wanted to do, to really be able to engage with the communities we're serving, the communities we're doing research with, is very, very important. I mentioned the research project I did with Black women who were involved with child welfare. The Association of Black Social Workers has done a lot of work with me and with other scholars to address issues. So one of the projects we did recently was a mental health and addictions project. And it was an action project, action research project. We were both taking information into communities around mental health and addictions, but we were also learning from the communities in terms of how they were impacted by their work. So I think we can be creative, bring creativity and social justice into our work through research. Partnerships between the front lines and social work educators is so important. And I think that we can be much more creative in this area, and that can lead to social change. So if we think about what research is done, who it's done with, as opposed to who it's done on, and then how the research is done. I remember when I was hired at Dalhousie before I got my PhD. I had a contract saying I would complete coursework towards the PhD. And I was so excited. My doctoral study was a participatory research project with Black men. And I remember sharing this at a social work conference, and a very well-known feminist who will remain unnamed said to me, "Why would you be wasting your time doing research on Black men?" I was devastated to hear this, but I found the courage to respond. And my response was simple. I said, I'm not doing research on Black men. I'm doing research with Black men. Shifts the thinking. So I have some principles for doing action research. Doing research. Most of the research that we do is done with vulnerable populations, with marginalized populations. And we shouldn't be doing research on them, but doing research with them. And I'm not saying it all has to be participatory research. And quite frankly, let me just say it, participatory research is really difficult to do when you're doing it well. And it doesn't work for all populations. But I think that if we're thinking about doing research with vulnerable populations, doing action research, there are some things that I think, some principles that I think are important to keep in mind. The need to act with humility. I mentioned I did research with Black men for my doctoral study. What were they getting out of it? I was getting a PhD. What were they getting out of it? Well, let me tell you that research has had such benefits. But we were successful in that work, and that's another whole talk I could do. We were successful in that work because I always started from a place of humility. Use your power and privilege. As social workers, we have power and we have privilege. So it's not about whether or not we have it. That's our starting place. We have it. What's important is what we do with it, how we use it. Are we using it to break through barriers? Or are we using it to create more barriers? The need to work with allies. So important to work with allies. Timing. Timing is everything. So the right entering, we enter lives, we enter people's lives, we enter communities at different times. But in terms of how we work and the work we do, we just need to be just very aware of the timing and then creatively use the timing. So I'll use the example again of these referrals that I was getting on these individual women, and then recognizing that one-on-one I wasn't going to make a whole lot of impact. So turning that sort of thing into research. Having access to resources. I knew I had the idea, but how was I going to get someone to fund that research? Networking. I went to, there was a group that I knew had a little bit of money. I was always, my students, I don't know if there's anyone in the room that I've actually taught at Dalhousie. Maybe not. But do I see some hands going up? Yes? Yes? Okay. So I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but I'd say I found a bit of money. I found a bit of money. And but I remember my ancestors, you know, they knew how to make stone soup. You know how you make that soup out of nothing? I would find a bit of money and do amazing projects. And I would involve students in those projects as much as possible. So, access to resources. And then if we think about research as being an instrument for change, for social change, always thinking about research as being an instrument for change. Not research that's going to pad your CV. Not research that's going to end up into a wonderful text at some point. I mean, those things are all important. So, you know, I'm not saying they're not important, but I'm saying they can't be the most important. I remember someone saying to me, you need to be careful about the kind of research you're doing. You don't want to ghettoize yourself. And you need to be careful about where you're publishing. You want to get to the top tier journals. Those will make the difference. Of course, I ignored all of that. Sage advice, I didn't take it seriously because I did the work that I felt was important to break through some of the barriers that I was witnessing in the everyday, the barriers that were having such a significant impact on the mental health and the well-being of people. I was told, you know, you shouldn't be doing all of your work or most of your work on doing research on Black people. At the time that I was doing it, if I wasn't doing it, who was? Really, it wasn't happening. Certainly not in Nova Scotia. Things are a little bit better now, but in those days, I'm glad I didn't listen. I'm glad I always wanted to color outside the lines. Oh, and be centered at all times. Oh, and the choice of methods. So what kind of research we want to be doing. So when I think about the work that I've sort of been a part of, that I've helped to lead, with the Association of Black Social Workers, and we eventually did get beyond 4 people, by the way. But when I think about it, action research has been key to a lot of the changes that we've led. Creativity in research. One of the things that we're seeing now, for example, in work in the justice system, we're seeing requests for culturally based assessments, pre-sentence reports. 40 years ago, that wasn't happening. But we recognized the need and documented the need for that to happen. So we're seeing changes in policy. We're seeing changes in what's being taught and how it's being taught. We're seeing changes in research. Looking at action research as resistance. The research study that I was part of with colleagues at Ryerson, action research can really lead to change. The race and well-being work. First group in the country really looking at racism as a form of violence, and then looking at the impact of racism on health and well-being, and mental health was clearly a part of that. So think about action research, how it can lead to policy change, how it can lead to practice change, how it can lead to social justice. One of my students from Vancouver did a really, really interesting research study in her master's degree, looking at how clients of mental health services perceive social justice, anti-oppression within their services. And we had such a hard time getting that through ethics, getting ethics approval. But we eventually did. She eventually did. You know, I was there supporting her. I think third time through, we managed to get it through. She did an amazing piece of work. One of the things that she was told was, I don't think anyone's going to talk to you. But they did. And they gave their perspectives. And it was very powerful. And we've been trying to get that published in some of those top-tier journals, and they don't want it. But we're going to keep working at it. Because I think that hearing from those first voices will be really, really important. But I think that we can think about our work on the front lines, how our work on the front lines can drive research, how research can impact our work on the front lines, how they can really shift the conversations around in social justice, in mental health, but also, probably more importantly, shift in terms of the actions. And then in the Senate, I really try to center the work around social justice issues, bringing that lens to the work. But also, for me, it's important to maintain the connection with the social work community. One of the things that I think is really, really important is, as I said at the beginning, now as a social worker who happens to be a senator, really looking at making changes and where do you make those changes. So it's work with associations and committees. It's applying a race equity lens to bills, bringing statements that bring awareness to these issues, and then creating race-related bills. So those are committees I'm a part of, the Human Rights Committee, Social Affairs. I was a part of it, I got kicked off because so many people wanted to be on Social Affairs. On Agricultural and Forestry, imagine bringing a race equity and a feminist intersectional lens to agriculture and forestry. But you know, just this past week, not last week, but the week before, a staff person sitting beside the current student that I have from Carleton, a staff person said, I love when Senator Bernard is here because she asks questions that no one else asks. So even asking the questions, and in that particular case, I was asking a question around equity hiring. One of the things I do is I'll ask questions that I know they won't be able to answer. Or I'll ask questions that there'll be discomfort around to get it on the public record. And again, when you raise those kinds of, when you raise the awareness, you're also highlighting the gaps. And then people will come and talk to you afterwards. People will go back to their offices and begin thinking differently because of a question that was asked. So it does make a difference. Some days it doesn't feel like it, but it does make a difference. And then applying that race equity lens to bills, so Bill C-16 on transgender rights, I think I was the only person who spoke about black women and men trans realities and how they're different. Bill C-211, the post-traumatic stress disorder bill. Again, the only person bringing a race lens to that work, and that was not well received. Someone actually said to me, "Why did you have to bring race to it? This has nothing to do with racism." Wow. We have a lot of work to do. Bill C-45, the cannabis legislation. Bill C-65, harassment. And as I said, for the most part, the interventions around the race equity are well received. Specifically, the creating race-related. I've introduced an inquiry into anti-Black racism, doing that deliberately to highlight the differences. I've introduced an emancipation bill to have Canada recognize Emancipation Day nationally. Ontario already does, but we need that recognized nationally. So just being creative with the work. So I believe that all of us as social workers, we can create equity with our clients. So I invite you to think about how you can create equity with your clients, how you can create interactive learning environments with your students, those of you who may be supervising students in field placements. Creating action in our workplaces to improve diversity and equity issues. And how do we create change in our communities? Through social work. Bringing a social justice lens to all of our work will certainly make a difference in terms of what we do in the mental health field. And when we integrate mental health into all of our fields of practice, then I think we would have achieved great creativity in our work. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. It is such a privilege to be able to thank you on behalf of OASW for opening our conference with such an inspiring message. You really have captured and embodied this whole message that we've had this campaign, this turn issues into answers, that social workers, you embody this in what you do and how you have worked your entire career. And that is just, and in a creative way. You turn issues into answers creatively. So it's great, it's great. It's been just a privilege to listen and learn from you today. The power of the collective voice, I love that. So thank you so much for your inspiring message. And I think you've really brought this conference to the kind of start that we needed to get this rolling. And we're so excited that you're here with us. And I know you've got more work to do with us today yet. Yes. So stay tuned, it's exciting. We're going to see Dr. Bernard again, or should I refer to you as Senator Dr. Bernard? How do we? All those titles, you know? Anyway, thank you so much. I think I agree with your grandson. You really do instill hope in people. Yes, he's very inspiring.